this guy's life might be danger over here because people think that he has something to do with Pac. People think he has something to do with Biggie, and they right here in Brooklyn. You understand? It's right here in Brooklyn, and some of the people are still mad that he made Making of the Band walk to Brooklyn from, you know, to get the cheesecake, and just around the corner from the Cheesecake Factory. So, I mean, Junior's, so it might be some dumb shit. So y'all need to get him out of here and ship him to Jersey because somebody gonna kill him over here. Those are good arguments, if you want to call it, but it's bullshit. He gonna get the same treatment no matter how much money he got.
Now, it was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even gonna go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to spot? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
The internet didn't wake up ready for this, but 50 Cent clearly did. One post, one caption. And suddenly timelines were spiraling like someone hit the emergency button on hip-hop history. According to what's being circulated, shocking prison. Footage tied to Diddy allegedly surfaced, and chaos followed instantly. Not courtroom chaos, not legal paperwork chaos. The kind of chaos that makes people lean closer to their screens and whisper, wait, is this real? Because when 50 Cent leaks anything, it's never accidental and it's never quiet. This isn't TMZ gossip energy. This is calculated, petty, long memory chess from a man who treats grudges like retirement plans. Group chats froze. Reaction. CHNNLS clocked in overtime. And the internet started asking dangerous questions out loud. What's actually happening behind bars? Who let this out? And why does it feel like this was timed with surgical precision? This makes the Kardashians look like they're arguing over parking spots. One-liner reality check. When a rap mogul's alleged prison life turns into viral content and 50 Cent is smiling somewhere in the background. You're not watching news, you're watching warfare with WI-V. Stay right here. Because what starts as alleged footage quickly turns into a reputational earthquake, celebrity panic, and a reminder that in hip-hop, nothing ever stays buried, especially when 50 Cent has the shovel. It didn't start with a press release or a sober news update. It started the way modern scandals always do, with a post that felt too casual to be accidental. A caption that didn't explain much. A tone that said, I know something you don't. And because the name attached was 50 Cent, the internet didn't ask for confirmation first. It braced for impact. When whispers of alleged prison footage connected to Diddy began circulating, the reaction wasn't curiosity, it was shock mixed with muscle memory. Everyone remembers that when 50 moves, it's rarely random. It's strategic, slow-cooked, and served cold. The background to this moment matters. This isn't a new rivalry flaring up overnight. This is years of tension, side-eyes, subliminals, and long pauses where nothing seemed to happen publicly but everything simmered privately. 50 Cent has built a reputation on never forgetting, never forgiving, and never missing a chance to remind people of that fact. So when he allegedly hinted at content tied to Diddy's life behind bars, the internet read it as a message, not a mistake. What made the situation explode was how fast the idea of prison footage took on a life of its own. No one stopped to ask what kind of footage. No one waited for verification. The phrase alone was enough. It triggered imaginations, assumptions, and 1,000 theories in under an hour. Clips started circulating claiming to be connected. Others claimed insider confirmation. Reaction channels didn't say it was real, they said it was possible, which in internet language means roll the cameras. The first wave of reactions wasn't even about Diddy. It was about 50. People asked why now? Why this moment? Why hint at something so explosive instead of letting the courts or the system speak? And the answer most people landed on wasn't legal, it was personal. Because if there's one thing 50 Cent has proven repeatedly, it's that timing is his favorite weapon. He doesn't swing when everyone expects it. He swings when the room is quiet enough to hear the echo dot as the chatter grew louder. So did the speculation about what chaos behind bars actually meant. Some framed it as internal turmoil. Others imagined power struggles, isolation, or conditions that contrasted sharply with Diddy's once luxurious public image. The comparisons were immediate and brutal. People joke that the fall from private jets to prison schedules makes Greek tragedies look like short stories. Sarcasm flew, but underneath it was fascination. The idea of a mogul's private reality clashing with a controlled environment is catnip for an audience. Raised on downfall narratives, Diddy's past persona played a huge role in why this hit so hard. For decades, he curated an image of control, influence and untouchable access, lavish parties, industry leverage, the aura of someone who always had options. The mere suggestion that there's footage contradicting that image again allegedly felt like a cultural whiplash. Fans and critics alike leaned in, not because they wanted confirmation, but because they wanted contrast. The bigger the image, the louder the fall. Meanwhile, 50 Cent's silence after the initial stir was deafening. He didn't over-explain, he didn't clarify. He let the speculation breathe, which only amplified it. In internet culture, silence from someone known for trolling isn't restraint, it's suspense. People read it as confidence, as if to say, let them talk. The message already landed. And that perceived confidence fueled the narrative faster than any follow-up ever could. The first reactions from celebrity-adjacent figures were cautious. No one wanted to attach their name to unverified claims, but vague posts began appearing, quotes about truth, exposure, and karma floating across feeds like smoke signals. Fans decoded everything. A heart emoji here became endorsement. A prayer hands emoji there became shade. Neutrality vanished within hours. Everyone was assumed to be choosing a side, whether they meant to or not. As the story grew, so did the tension between alleged and assumed. That gap is where the internet thrives. Content creators filled it with analysis, speculation, and dramatic reenactments that blurred the line between commentary and fiction. Titles screamed certainty even when the videos spoke cautiously. Bah. Disconnect didn't slow anything down. It sped it up. Because certainty sells better than caution. Even when caution is more honest, the humor turned darker as the narrative expanded. Memes compared the situation to reality shows where power dynamics flip overnight. Some joked about image rebrands nobody asked for. Others called it the most unexpected season of hip-hop history. The jokes landed because they fed a familiar pattern, the mighty humbled, the untouchable touched. But even as people laughed, there was an undercurrent of discomfort. Prison isn't a punchline, and everyone knew that line was being tested. Diddy's camp, notably, stayed quiet during this early phase. No statements, no denials, no clarifications. That silence did what silence always does. It let the loudest voices fill the space. Supporters argued that rumors shouldn't be treated as reality. Critics countered that rumors don't explode without sparks. Both sides spoke past each other, and the story kept moving without permission from anyone involved. What made this phase especially volatile was the uncertainty layered on top of long-standing beef. If this had come from a random source, it might have fizzled. Coming from 50 Cent, or at least being framed as coming from him, gave it gravity. History matters. Patterns matter. And 50's pattern has taught audiences to assume intention even. When details are thin dot by the end of this first wave, the story wasn't about footage anymore. It was about power, who controls narratives, who exposes whom, and how quickly a suggestion can rewrite public perception before facts ever arrive. The internet had already decided something big was happening. The only unanswered question was how far it would go. Once the idea took root, it didn't need proof, it needed oxygen. And the internet supplied it by the gallon. The narrative jumped from alleged footage to everybody's talking about it in a single news cycle, which is basically light speed in scandal time. Reaction channels clocked in like it was overtime during a blackout. Timelines filled with theories stacked on top of other theories, each one more confident than the last. Because nothing travels faster online than certainty wrapped in speculation. What escalated everything was the way 50 Cent's name hovered over the conversation like a producer credit you can't ignore. People weren't just reacting to what might exist. They were reacting to who might be holding it. And when the person is famous for weaponizing timing, audiences assume intention even when the message is vague. That's how suspense becomes strategy. 50 didn't need to explain. The silence did the heavy lifting. Then came the celebrity reactions carefully. Vague, expertly timed, and impossible to read without bias. A few truth always comes out posts floated by. Some prayers up, captions appeared with no names attached. Fans decoded punctuation like it was Morse code. A period meant finality, an ellipsis meant more to come. Emojis became endorsements. Neutrality got accused of cowardice. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about Diddy or 50, it was about who dared to comment and who the idea and single quotes. Memes followed, because chaos without humor doesn't stick. The comparisons got wild. People framed it like a prestige TV downfall arc, the kind where the camera lingers on empty rooms and stripped titles. Others joked about the contrast between curated luxury and institutional routine, like switching from a penthouse playlist to a lights-out schedule. The jokes landed because they highlighted a fear everyone shares: how fast status can evaporate. But the humor came with an edge. Prison isn't a punchline, and the audience could feel that. Line being tested in real time. As the chatter grew louder, so did the pushback. Supporters of Diddy demanded restraint, reminding everyone that alleged isn't a synonym for proven. Critics fired back that power protects until it doesn't, and that rumors don't ignite without friction. The argument became less about facts and more about belief systems. Do you trust institutions? Do you trust patterns? Do you trust the messenger? The answers split cleanly, and once sides are chosen, nuance gets trampled. Content creators leaned into escalation. Thumbnails screamed, "Chaos behind bars," while voiceovers carefully hedged. That disconnect didn't slow anything down. It sped it up. Audiences don't watch for caution, they watch for conviction. The conviction didn't come from evidence. It came from narrative momentum. And momentum, once built, demands constant feeding. Speculation about the footage itself grew more cinematic by the hour. Some imagined it showed tension, isolation, or internal disorder. Others framed it as mundane moments reframed for shock. Value. The truth didn't matter as much as the contrast. A mogul known for control placed into a system built on routine. That juxtaposition alone carried enough dramatic weight to keep the story moving. Regardless of what actually existed, Diddy's continued silence became a character in the story. Not a passive one, a loud one. Silence in a scandal is a blank canvas, and the internet paints its worst assumptions on it. Supporters called it restraint. Critics called it avoidance. Analysts called it legal advice. The crowd called it suspicious. All interpretations lived at once, and none could be disproven without a statement that never came. Meanwhile, 50 Cent's reputation for trolling reframed every pause as intent. People revisited his history, compiling moments where a single post detonated entire narratives. That history mattered. It told the audience how to feel before they knew what to think. When the messenger is known for controlled chaos, the message doesn't need detail to land, it needs anticipation, the outrage. Matured into something colder. Less yelling, more judgment. People started replaying old interviews, past conflicts, industry rumors, anything that could retroactively justify the current speculation. The past got rewritten as prologue. Every old quote became foreshadowing. Every rivalry became context. The story ballooned beyond the alleged footage into a referendum on power, downfall, and who gets to narrate it. Even neutral observers felt the shift. The spectacle started to feel heavy. The jokes thinned out. The comments grew more cautious. When prison enters the chat, entertainment recalibrates. The audience doesn't leave, it leans back. And that lean back changes everything. Engagement stays high, but the tone tightens. Laughter becomes nervous. Curiosity becomes discomfort. Industry insiders stayed publicly quiet. which only intensified the sense that something serious sat underneath the noise. In hip-hop culture, silence from the inside often reads as awareness, even when it's just self-preservation. Fans interpreted the quiet as confirmation that this wasn't just a rumor mill spinning for clicks. The absence of denial became its own headline as days passed. The story stopped feeling like a spike and started feeling like a slow burn, not trending every hour but never disappearing. The kind of narrative that embeds itself into conversations and resurfaces whenever related names trend. That persistence is dangerous. It doesn't require new information. It feeds on memory. By the end of this phase, the escalation was complete. What began as a hint had transformed into a full-blown cultural debate. Not about footage, but about exposure, about who controls legacy, about whether power shields or amplifies consequences. The internet had already decided the moment mattered, even if the details remained foggy. And that's when the tone changed again, from reaction to anticipation, from "what is this?" to "what happens next?" Because once a story reaches that point, it doesn't need proof to continue. It needs resolution, or at least the promise of it. When the volume finally dipped, the damage didn't. That's the part people underestimate. Loud scandals burn fast, but quiet consequences stick. By the time the outrage cooled, the story had already hardened into something more permanent than a trending clip. For Diddy, the alleged footage wasn't just a rumor anymore, it was a shadow. A lingering idea that followed every mention of his name, reshaping how people interpreted his past and anticipated his future. You don't need confirmation for that kind of shift. You just need repetition. Public perception doesn't wait for court documents. It waits for vibes to settle. And once the vibe turns, it's ruthless. Supporters stayed vocal, but their defense changed tone from confident dismissal to careful correction. Critics stopped yelling and started cataloging. The conversation moved from, "Is this real?" to "What does this mean?" That pivot matters. It signals that the audience has accepted the moment as culturally relevant, regardless of legal clarity. The industry felt it too, not loudly, strategically. Collaborators went quiet. Associations paused. No dramatic exits, just subtle distance. In spaces where reputation is currency, uncertainty devalues everything. Nobody wants to be caught explaining proximity when narratives are unstable. Silence becomes a hedge, and hedging spreads. When enough people hedge, momentum stalls. Diddy's image, once synonymous with control, access, and curated spectacle, entered a colder phase. Not collapsed, reframed. The larger-than-life mogul archetype gave way to something more fragile in the public imagination. A powerful figure subject to systems that don't care about legacy. That reframing doesn't need proof to persist.
It's
Powered by contrast. Penthouse mythology versus institutional routine. Excess versus order. Influence versus limitation. Once that contrast takes hold, it's hard to unsee. 50 Cent's role crystallized in the aftermath. Whether or not anything tangible ever surfaced, the perception of orchestration stuck. The idea that he could drop something was enough to alter the balance. That's the real power move, not the reveal, but the implication. It reminded everyone that narratives can be nudged without being confirmed, and that timing can be louder than evidence. In hip-hop culture, that's a lesson with teeth. The audience recalibrated its appetite. The jokes faded. The memes slowed. The energy turned observant, almost clinical. Viewers didn't disengage, they watched differently. Less excitement, more skepticism. That shift is dangerous because it doesn't spike, it erodes. It changes how future headlines are received before they're even read. Once erosion begins, every new update feels heavier than the last. The lack of closure kept the story alive. In fragments. No definitive statement arrived to reset the conversation. No clear denial landed with enough force to shut speculation down. That absence became the narrative's engine. Every unrelated headline pulled the story back into view. Every resurfaced rivalry felt connected. The internet doesn't need fresh fuel when it has memory. Industry insiders continued quiet added weight. In cultures where denial is quick and loud when things are false, prolonged restraint reads as calculation. Fair or not, that perception lingered. Fans filled the gaps with assumptions. Analysts filled them with pattern recognition.
The story
Didn't need new information, it needed time to marinate. And time is merciless. The broader impact showed up in how people talked about power. The discourse shifted from individual guilt to systemic vulnerability. Who's protected? Who isn't? How fast does influence evaporate when narratives flip? Those questions outlast any single rumor. They turn a moment into a case study. And case studies don't disappear when the trend does. For Diddy, the future narrowed, not closed, but constrained. Every appearance would be scrutinized for subtext, every silence interpreted, every move framed as response, whether intended or not. That's the cost of high visibility uncertainty. You don't get neutral.
days anymore.
You get days that feel like footnotes to an unresolved chapter. For 50 Cent, the aftermath reinforced a reputation he's cultivated for decades. Never underestimate the long game. He didn't need to dominate the conversation. He just needed to bend it, and bend it did. The message landed without a manifesto. The implication did the work. In a culture that thrives on suggestion, that's a masterclass. What lingered longest was discomfort, not outrage, not shock. Discomfort. The kind that settles when people realize they're watching a power shift in slow motion. The audience didn't cheer, it leaned back. And that lean back changed the temperature permanently. This wasn't a climax. It was a recalibration. The story didn't end, it stabilized into something heavier and harder to shake. The alleged footage became less important than the idea of it. And ideas, once planted, don't need proof to grow. The chaos behind bars reel or rumor didn't have to be shown to matter. The suggestion alone redrew lines, rewrote expectations, and reminded everyone watching that in this game, perception doesn't follow reality. It outruns it. Now, before you scroll like this was just another wild rumor. Pause, because this is how narratives really change. Not with a press conference, not with a verdict, but with implication, timing, and the kind of silence that screams louder than any denial. One post, one suggestion, and suddenly the entire conversation shifted. That's power. That's perception. And that's why this story refuses to die quietly. So let's hear from you. Drop your take in the comments and don't play neutral. Did 50 Cent play chess while everyone else played checkers? Or is this internet culture spiraling off a rumor with no breaks? Is the idea of chaos behind bars enough to reshape a legacy, even without confirmation? And at what point does implication become punishment in the court of public opinion? Say it with your chest. The comment section is open court. And don't just watch history scroll by. Smash that like button like it owes you money and just switched phones. Hit subscribe like you already know the next chapter is loading. Because in this world, silence never lasts and receipts always surface when you least expect them. Around here, we don't chase noise, we decode moves, timing, and power plays. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next leak, the next subliminal, or the next I wasn't gonna say nothing but moment that flips the timeline upside down at 3 a.m. This channel lives where hip-hop politics, celebrity warfare, and reputation collide. Remember, today's implication becomes tomorrow's headline, and perception moves faster than truth ever will. Stay sharp. Stay skeptical. Stay tapped in. This isn't gossip. This isn't coincidence. This is Fame Blueprint.